Wonderful. Well, it's great to see. We'll probably have a few more people joining in, but Eva, you
Yes,
are
of
free
course.
to
So,
kick us off. We
good
only have
morning
an
for
hour
some
to
of
save the
you. Good
world,
evening.
so
My
we
name
probably
is
want to get
Eva
started as soon as
Vasquez.
possible.
I'm the director of the Mastering Global Center for Family Businesses and Entrepreneurship, and at Thunderbird School of Global Management. So, on behalf of the school and Arizona State University, I want to welcome you to this live and interactive session, Hacking the SDGs, Turning Big Challenges into Entrepreneurial Opportunities with Professor Henrik Scheel. Professor Scheel is a Danish serial entrepreneur, venture capital investor, and professor of practice at Thunderbird School of Global Management. So we only have 1 hour to save the world. So without further ado, Henrik, please.
Thank you so much, Eva. And great to have all of you with us here today. I know you've had 3 really intensive days in case you've joined all the different sessions here for this wonderful UNGA conference. Over the last 3 days, you've learned a lot about the challenges that we're facing around the world with the sustainability, the SDGs and other challenges. You've learned about fascinating technologies that are improving the state of the world in various capacities. And today, we'll try to put all that information, all that new knowledge to use. So this session is going to be probably different from most of the sessions that you're going to be working to actually come up with innovative new ideas to some of the big challenges we see around the world. So we're going to be using a tool called Miro, which is an online whiteboarding tool where all of you will be able to join in, write on sticky notes, vote on ideas, collaborate, build on each other's ideas. And in a highly sort of interactive format, we're going to try to come up with ideas that the world has never seen before. And then it's up to all of us to go and implement those ideas in the future. Very briefly about myself, I'm a Danish entrepreneur who moved to Silicon Valley in 2010 to be part of the startup ecosystem over here. I'm an entrepreneur turned educator turned venture capital investor. So I invest in early stage companies. I teach entrepreneurship around the world, and I'm a professor of practice with Thunderbird School of Global Management. So I work with lots of aspiring entrepreneurs, social innovators, and large corporations that are interested in solving big problems as well. The reason for the session today is, as you are very well aware of, we are sort of in this very interesting state in time. All right, most futurologists, if you ask people like Peter Diamandis or Ray Kurzweil and others, they all believe that we're standing right here in front of this explosion of change. Never before have we seen such rapid societal transformation, and partly due to the fourth industrial revolution and all these exponential tech trends that are radically transforming all industries, the way we live our lives, the way we communicate. And now when you throw in COVID-19, you certainly have an explosive mix of radical change. So for most people, you look at this and you get terrified. Am I right? Like, for most people, this is terrifying, and most large corporations are terrified about the amount of change that is happening at the moment. But for the entrepreneurs, for those with an entrepreneurial mindset, whether you're working in government or large corporations or nonprofits or new tech startups, this also represents an enormous opportunity. Whenever there's a lot of change, there are typically a lot of challenges, and whenever there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of new opportunities. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. So that's what we're going to try to look at. That's how we're going to try to look at the SDGs today, essentially as a lot of massive opportunities for new entrepreneurial ventures. So you are now future founders tasked with the idea or with the challenge to come up with new breakthrough solutions to some of the SDGs. And so essentially this session is called Hacking SDGs, and we're going to use this tool called Miro. You can see an outline here that I've sort of outlined the step-by-step process. So I'm going to post the link in our chat here. And Miro is a browser-based tool, so everyone should have relatively easy access. It might take a minute to load it, but if you click on the Miro board here, you should be able to join our Miro board and be able to see what's going on in there. And I'm going to just the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the Sustainable Development Goals and pick the top goals that we want to solve today. Unfortunately, we will not be able to tackle all 17. So we need to prioritize, and that's going to be our first challenge. So the step-by-step process is essentially that we will apply design thinking methodology to initially define a specific problem we want to solve and a specific customer segment we want to focus on. And then we're going to dive into the actual ideation session where you will all come up with innovative new ideas on how to solve these big challenges. So let me just try to share my Miro board instead. For those of you who've not used that before, I want to be able to, let's see here, application window. Okay. All right, so see, lots of you have joined the Miro board, and that's phenomenal. I can see everyone is sort of zooming around here. So here I can see all of you. If you look on the United Business Live window here, I can see all of you here. So what I'd like you to do initially is sort of join me in zooming in on the Sustainable Development Goals here. So I'm just going to have you all follow me. So here are the 17 goals, and I'm now going to give you 2 votes each. So you're going to have, let's say, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, to select the SDGs that we'll work on today. So essentially, we will not be able to address all of these. We're going to have 2 tracks. So you're going to have 2 votes, and you have to pick 2 of the SDGs. I suggest that you focus on one SDG 1 to 7, because those I think are maybe a little bit more approachable for this particular case. So what I'd like you to do is essentially vote on the sticky notes. You can only vote on the sticky notes, not on anything else. When I start this in a second. For those of you who haven't used Miro before, just a quick crash course. Initially, it might be confusing when you see everyone else's cursors. So initially, you can see everyone zooming around here. You can disable that by clicking this little arrow here at the top, if you follow my screen here on the chat. So just disable everyone else's cursors. And then initially, your mouse icon looks like a hand. That's in viewing mode. Then you can interact with the content. So you activate that to be in editing mode over on the left-hand side panel over here. So you basically now have this like normal mouse-looking cursor. And with that, you can interact with the panel on the left-hand side to add sticky notes, for example. So you click on the sticky, select a color, and then you can click on that anywhere. Those sticky notes can be moved around just like you would move any other object with your mouse or trackpad. You can double-click on it, and then you can write on it. And also what you can do is you can zoom in and out. So somebody is now adding a sticky note onto my sticky note. I'm a sticky, right? So here we have a sticky note. Other people can go in and you can say, oh, that's an awesome idea. So I can add an emoji to that, and I can actually give it a thumbs up. So that will be one of the ways we can sort of, interact with each other's ideas. We can also say, oh, that's a great idea. So I'll add another sticky here. And then I'm say, well, this is actually connected to that. So I can connect it to this other sticky here. And I can see now the 2 are sort of interconnected. And this will be useful later when we start building on each other's ideas and you want to say something, but you can't have multiple people write on the same sticky at the same time. So this is a good way to sort of get around that. So you can zoom in and out with your on your trackpad with your fingers. And you can also use the map down here at the bottom right corner to zoom in and out using these buttons. There's a little map function here where you can see what's going on. And what you will find is that we have this entire sort of board. Please try not to jump ahead. I will try to manage the process one by one. But the first thing we're going to do, if everyone just comes here to where I am, I can call you to me. So bring everyone to me. Okay, so don't add additional stickies here to the board. What I want you to do is I want you to vote on the white stickies that have a number correlating to the number of the SDG that you want us to work on throughout this session. Okay? I'm going to post the link to the Miro board again here in the chat if some of you did not get it. Here you go. Okay, so on the Miro board, I'm going to open up for voting now. Don't add more stickies to this board here, but vote on the white sticky notes that have a number. Okay, on each, you see each of the SDGs. You see SDG number 1 is about no poverty. So end poverty in all its forms everywhere for all people. Right, that has number 1. So if you want to vote for number 1, you want to work on that, you click on that in a minute, not right now, but when I open up for voting, okay? So I'm going to open up the voting now, and we see how this goes. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes to vote, and you're going to each have 2 votes. Selection. Okay, and you can only vote on sticky notes, nothing else, and only vote on the white sticky notes. Okay, don't vote on any other sticky notes because it's not going to make sense. Okay, so I'm going to start that now. You each have 2 votes, and you need to zoom in to these. You see the white sticky notes. These are the ones with a little plus icon. Those are the ones you can vote on. So in essentially 2 minutes, you have 2 votes. You can zoom in and out and read about these if you're not so familiar with the SDGs. There's no poverty, 0 hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy. I suggest you pick one of those top 7, but it's up to you. If you want to work on life below water, you select number 14. If you want to work on climate action, take urgent actions to combat climate change and its impact, you vote on number 13. So go ahead, give it a vote. I'm going to vote for, let's see here. So these are all important challenges, and we need solutions for all these big problems, obviously. For those of you who just joined us, thanks for joining. Please find the link to the Miro board in the chat. We're right now voting on what SDGs we want to work on. Okay, so I think I'm going to vote on education. I think that's important. And I'm going to vote on what else? Good health and well-being. Cool. So in 25 seconds, time is up. So make sure to cast your votes. You should only vote on the top white sticky notes here on the board. And what we're doing right now is we're voting for what SDGs we want to hack today. So in 10 seconds, that's going to be over. We're going to see the essentially results of these votes, and that's going to now correlate to 2 different SDGs, and then it's up to you which one of those 2 you want to work on. So, okay, time is up. And let's see how. What? I hope that did get registered. Are you serious? Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's give it 1 more minute. We're going to have to try it 1 more time, guys. I apologize for that. 2 votes. Everyone vote on the stickies. It hasn't happened before. And okay, I'm going to save to vote later, and then I'm going to do this one. Okay, so I'm going to start the vote now. So just cast your votes 1 more time, just 1 minute. You have 2 votes. Join, only vote on the white sticky notes. I'm going to vote education and health. So do this with me 1 more time. You have only 45 seconds, and then we should be able to see the results. Cast your votes right now. Any of the 17 SDGs that you want to work on today. And then we'll get to actually work. So shortly after this is over, we're going to split it into 2 different work areas. So we have 2 different tracks, depending on what top 2 SDGs you've picked. And then it will be up to you to essentially work simultaneously, and we can see which team ends up with the best solutions at the end. So 10 seconds left. Vote on your top ideas, and then we'll be done. Okay, so now we should be able to see the results here in a second. I'm very excited to see which SDGs you have picked. as our targets for this session. They're, of course, all really important. Oh, that's interesting. So we have 9 votes on number 11 and 6 votes on number 7. So those are our top candidates, and those are going to be the challenges we'll work on today. So let's zoom in and see what we're dealing with. So this is surprising. So 9 of you have picked SDG number 11. Sustainable cities and communities make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Okay, so we're going to go down here and say SDG number 7. That's going to be SDG number 11, sorry, and then the other one is number 7, which is affordable and clean energy. So ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Excellent. So I'm going to put, so we have 11 and 7. So on the left-hand side here, I'm going to add. This is number 11. And over here, we have number 7. Okay, so what we need to do right now is that we need to figure out who are we targeting. So as entrepreneurs, one of the key things is that you need to narrow your scope. As an entrepreneur, you will not be able to solve all kinds of problems for all kinds of people around the world. You need to have a super narrow scope, especially in the beginning. So you find your niche segment that you can target, and you can solve this one problem for this one group of people. So we need to not only know what this overall problem is, we also need to decide on a user segment. So if you have suggestions, you need to now pick either track with SDG number 11 or the track with SDG number 7. And what I'd like you to do is write down on the orange sticky notes a couple of suggestions for user segments, okay? So you can take some of these and just in this area over here, grab a sticky and write down a user segment that you think we should focus on for SDG number 7 or SDG number 11. So feel free to join in here, and I'd love to hear who you have in mind that we should target. Yes, thanks for whoever took the initiative to write this out. That's probably helpful. I'm actually gonna, let's see here. Okay, so we see, so SDG number 11 is on the left-hand side track here on the mirror board. So those who want to work on sustainable cities and communities is over on the left-hand side track. Those who want to work on number 7, affordable and clean energy, you're on the right track on the mirror board. And I know when we have 30 plus people on the board, have a little patience. It might lag a little bit, but it should work. So just zoom in to this area and sort of follow that stream down, and it should work beautifully. So let's see here. Just gonna take. Oh, very confusing why people wrote different numbers. Okay, 7-11. So again, what I'd like you to work on right now is simply just write down what user segments you think we should focus on within the two challenges here. And I'm just adding these descriptions of the SDGs. If I can find the other one. Does not seem to be too easy. Okay, developing cities is a user segment. Yeah, that's a little broad, but sustainable to cities. So what I'd like you to consider is essentially where are we focused on these development, these sustainable cities and communities. Is that in Asia, Latin America, United States, Africa? Where are these sustainable cities that you want us to focus on? And over here, clean, affordable, and clean energy. Is that in terms of who is that? Individual households? Is it more broadly? And we're only going to give a couple more minutes if some of you have some perspectives on this. Otherwise, we're going to have to just basically jump in and start brainstorming on ideas, and that will work too. But usually, in an actual design thinking session, what we try to do is have a very well-defined problem statement before we focus too much on ideation. So a typical design thinking session looks a little bit like this. Let me see if I can share. Here we go. Okay. Should be able to see that now. So in a design thinking session, for those of you who are not familiar with this process, haven't done that before, the first stage of a design thinking process is all about having empathy for the user and really understanding the context, getting into the mindset of the people you're trying to help. If you don't have a really good understanding of the problem you're trying to solve, you're most likely not going to be able to solve it. So it's all about empathic listening, doing research, understanding the whole context, and then defining one very specific problem that you want to solve for one very well-defined customer segment before you dive into the green zone, which is, blue sky innovation, anything is possible. But today, because of the time constraints, we're just going to have to jump in, even if we don't have a particularly well-defined problem. We know our overall problem, but we're going to just brainstorm on ideas in all different directions related to this. It's going to work still, and it's going to be fun, and hopefully we'll come up with some breakthrough ideas. But this is usually what this process looks like. And the green zone is really my favorite part of the process. Maybe you can see that from my green background here as well. My failed attempt at making a green screen work and having a fancy background now ended up with a green background, but it's good for the green zone. So in the green zone, it's all about brainstorming out loud and wild as possible. There are no limitations. You try to not criticize ideas and be too rational, too logical, and sort of limit yourself in your ideation. You just want to come up with all kinds of ideas as wild as possible. So that's what we're going to do here in this process. Let me see here. Okay, so let me go and see what's going on the Miro board now. Okay, so did we get some insights here? Okay, so one person wrote New York. You have already gone ahead. Okay, you've basically written all kinds of ideas here for customer segments. Okay, that's cool. So that seemed to be a logical way to do it. Okay, so we have underserved communities like youth slums in sub-Saharan Africa, youth in LA, secure cities for low-income women in Latin America, equal justice, green spaces in urban areas for family employees. Wow, there are so many great challenges here. Okay, let's see here. So you're using the brainstorming area to just brainstorm on user segments. And I should, of course, have anticipated that, but that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to create another brainstorm area for the actual ideas. So don't play around with this one out here yet. So as you can see on the so I'm building out the board. Essentially what I'm doing is because we used up the areas for brainstorming on user segments, I'm just creating a new brainstorming area for the actual solutions we want to work on. I love all the input here. There are lots of good ideas going on. And remember, you can write your own sticky notes, or you can you can just grab one from the side. Okay, so the area I created out here is for brainstorming solutions, not challenges. Okay. So what we're going to do is that now there are, within our track over to the right side on affordable and clean energy, you have come up with lots of different problem areas, essentially trying to figure out, okay, where do we want to focus here? Clean energy for whom, right? For families, for local businesses, small businesses, independent energy grids, recycle solar panels, use remote areas for testing. So some of these are ideas for solutions. And if they are ideas for solutions, I need you to move them out here on the right-hand side, but not yet. Because what I want us to do first is essentially pick the problem we want to solve is SDG number 7, affordable and clean energy. And we need to figure out our user segment. It's not New York. So I think I might have to make an executive decision here. So one is, that's an interesting one with farmers. I think we're going to have at least one version will be farmers. Another one will be families. As again, that's very broad. Usually I would like to have this way more specific, but due to the time constraints today, we don't have time to sort of limit this too much. Let me see here. What else do we have? Energy grid independent. Okay. So affordable and clean energy. Families or farmers. Okay, I'm going to say residential household. There are several people who are like interested in residential and like families and farmers. I'd say we're going to pick these two over here on SDG number 7. It's affordable and clean energy for farmers or families. Okay, these are going to be our topics. So all of you who are working on SDG 7, this is going to be our two main focus areas. What I'd like you to do now is we're going to jump into what's called the green zone, okay? So not yet. After a few instructions, we need to also pick an area over here for sustainable cities and communities. So here we have some of these ideas around trails, parking, urban farmers, that's interesting. So sustainable cities overall. I feel like sustainable cities, that might be well-defined enough. It would be advantageous for us to have defined specifically what we're talking about sustainable cities, but I think that's well-defined enough that sustainable cities and communities, and we want to brainstorm on how is that possible. Like what are solutions that could help make our cities more sustainable and our communities more sustainable. Again, you can go back, you can reread these also on the UN website. Of course, you can read more context around these sustainable development goals. But with this context, we want to get started because we need to actually solve these problems. So on what we're going to do now is we're going to get started with brainstorming, but before that, let me see here. Oh, I'm actually not sharing. I thought I was sharing my screen the whole time. Let's see here. Okay, so for the session of thinking about the SDGs, we're now going to go into this green zone. The rule in the green zone is that there's no criticism allowed. You're not allowed to even think critically yourself either. It's all about blue sky innovation, as many ideas as possible. What I'd like you to consider is some of these tech trends that we see as part of the fourth industrial revolution, and think about, well, how can we utilize some of these exponential technologies to develop real solutions to these big problems? Because technology can, of course, be an enabler for us to solve some of these big challenges in much more efficient, much more affordable ways. So try to consider some of the latest tech trends related to Internet of Things, right? How all our devices are now becoming intelligent smart devices where we can do remote monitoring of health metrics. You can do remote monitoring of energy consumption for all our devices. We have smart thermostats that will automatically regulate the temperature and cut off the devices so we don't have like peak sort of usage on the grid, or we can regulate that in much better ways. Think about augmented reality and virtual reality. How can artificial intelligence might play a role in managing these cities, making them more sustainable? What about drone technology? Can that play a role? How can we use gamification to essentially create incentives for people to act in better ways, to take care of each other in more sustainable ways? Social media, how can we use that as a technology to help some of these things? So think about some of these big tech trends. And in general, in a usual sort of brainstorm session, this is one of the big challenges. This happens a lot, that in a brainstorm session, all the ideas are essentially generated by one really loud and annoying person. But because I'm the only one speaking today, I'm the only one loud and annoying person, there's much more room for all of you to generate ideas simultaneously. So usually what I do in these processes, I start with a silent brainstorming. But because of the format here today, it's going to be silent, at least verbally, but everyone can jump in at any point in time. So we're now going to jump into the creative process. What I'd like you to keep in mind is not to judge ideas right away. Initially, when you have a new idea, it's very fragile and it can't really protect itself. So come up with all kinds of wild ideas. Don't say, no, but that's too expensive, that's not possible. Say, yes, and we can also do this and that. So try to build on each other's ideas, not on the same sticky note. Add a new sticky note and connect them, okay? And remember, you can make sticky notes small or big. You can connect them, you can add to them, you can change the colors, whatever is needed. You can add your own sticky notes on the left-hand side panel, or you can just write on some of those that I already put out. And you're very welcome to be visual. In Miro, you can also drag and drop images. Try not to drop anything that's too heavy because it's going to challenge our bandwidth, but you can drop like in a visualization. If you have an idea you want to visualize, you can sketch it out on a piece of paper, take a picture of it, and drop it into Miro. So anything is possible here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to get on the Miro board and we're going to start brainstorming solutions to these problems. So now where I'd like you to focus your attention is go over to the Miro board. Again, we have two tracks. We have SDG number 11 on the left-hand side, and it's sort of outside the board now. This is where our SDG 11 innovators are operating. And what I need you to do when you write down an idea, it has to be a short description, but it has to be long enough to make sense to other people, because in this format, you're not able to verbally explain yourself. So you need to actually write it out so that other people can make sense of your idea. So take a sticky note, and it's very important, only one idea per sticky. Don't essentially have like bullet points with more than one idea per sticky, because we want to be able to combine them, move them around, and later on we're going to rank the best ideas as well. So only one idea per sticky note, and then write it out so that it actually makes sense. And again, we're now brainstorming on the area to the left if you're sustainable cities, because we use this board to brainstorm on customer segments. So if you wrote down some ideas over here on this board, just move them over. Okay, this is the area for brainstorming on solutions. And I'm going to put a timer up here because we only have 10 minutes to come up with world-changing ideas. So there's a 10-minute now, and the same goes for SDG number 7, affordable and clean energy. Here we're focused on farmers and families, and I see some very organized people are already starting to color code these things. So ideas for families tend to have an orange sticky note, and the ideas for providing affordable and clean energy for families are on green sticky notes, but totally up to you. So again, write out the ideas, one idea per sticky note. Write down all your ideas first, your own ideas. It's a good idea to essentially empty your own head first before you get too inspired by other people. Of course, if you don't have any ideas, you can start reading around. But initially, to get the most volume of ideas, which is really what this is about, we want to have a large quantity of ideas because that's going to ultimately lead to the good idea. Try not to hold back Any wild, crazy, wild ideas are absolutely fine. You are anonymous on the Miro board, so nobody's going to judge you. There's no judging, especially not at this stage. We just want to have as many wild ideas as possible. Okay, good. So I'm going to shut up and actually give you a few minutes here to work on this. And I'm going to try to contribute a few ideas as well myself. Maybe there are some ideas here we want to move over. So I'm just trying to lock all these elements down. If you have an issue with your stickies getting stuck behind other elements, you can right-click on the sticky and ask it to get up front, to bring to front, essentially, and then the sticky note is going to go on top. Again, remember to write out your ideas a bit more so that they actually make sense to others instead of just water source. Like, I need to know a bit more than that. Like, what do you mean? Okay, bikeable, yeah. Okay, how can we do that? We need yes. Okay, cities have to be bikeable. What does that mean? Is that, you know, more bike path? Is it you know, trying to incentivize people to ride their bikes by increasing taxes on gasoline like they do in Denmark? Cars are insanely expensive and gasoline is insanely expensive. So try to bikes as a first-class citizen. Okay, so like a campaign to make biking cool and hip. I think in Denmark, not for this to be an ad for Denmark, but I think 55% of the Danish parliament of the politicians there actually bike to work year round, even in the rain and in the snow. It's pretty phenomenal. So yeah, we need more role models who are biking to work, and maybe some kind of cool campaign to make it hip and cool to bike to work. But we certainly also need, you know, for that to be safe. Here in San Francisco, you're pretty suicidal if you take your bike to work. I do it myself, but it's borderline dangerous because the roads are so terrible, and also most drivers are not very good at handling bikes, so they get aggressive and so on. So try to expand the ideas a little bit more so that other people can build on it. And now at the 5-minute mark here, I would like you to, after you've sort of emptied your own head and written down your own ideas, it would be great for you to start reading some of the other people's ideas here and just figuring out what else do we have on the board. And maybe you can look at an idea and say, yes, and we could also do this and that. Or, hey, we can also apply this other technology to make it even more, even cheaper or better or faster or whatever it might be. Again, for those of you who are joined but who are not on the Miro board, you will have a lot more fun if you join the Miro board. And you can do that by clicking on this Miro board link here in the chat. It's anonymous, it's in the browser, it's very easy to get on, doesn't require any download. So I just posted the link again because I can see we have 72 people joining our session, but only 42 people on the board. So just dive in and find the session here. As you can see on the screen, we have a lot of people working. This is so cool. Take a screenshot of this. Like, we have 45 collaborators now in real time, building, brainstorming together on Miro, hacking the SDGs. This is cool. Okay, 4 minutes left, because then what we need is ultimately we need to pick the best idea in each category, and we need to build a business model to this for this to become a reality. So there are lots of cool ideas here on the board. Try to read a couple of them, add your 2 cents, and then we're going to have a voting session essentially on each panel. Great work here. I can see a lot of ideas are sort of interconnected here. Very cool. For those who are just joining us, we are right now live hacking the SDGs using a tool called Miro. You can find the link in the chat, and you're welcome to just join in and jump on. We have 2 tracks. We have hacking SDG number 11, sustainable development, sustainable cities and communities on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, we're working on SDG number 7. Somebody, there we go. Okay, 2 minutes left for actually writing down ideas and brainstorming on these. And then we need to start figuring out which one of these might be best. Okay, I think we're going to add a couple more. Okay, 40 seconds left, and then we're gonna start actually working on building. We need to select the best ideas, and we're gonna build a business model for these as well. So we're not quite done. There's more to consider. Okay. So lots of amazing ideas here on the board. What I'd like you to do now is, if there is an idea that you like, I would like you to give it a thumbs up. Okay, so what you do is that you mark the sticky note, and then once you mark it, you can see there's a little emoji icon, and then you can basically just add a thumbs up or a smile or whatever emoji you fancy. There might also be other ways of doing this. Okay, we're gonna use this. Okay, so if you don't want to go in and add it, you can also add it manually. Just gonna add a bunch of these, so you can just grab one, stick it on something you like. You can grab one of those. Add some over here too. So take a thumbs up, either mark the thumbs up inside the sticky or drag a thumbs up to the idea that you like. Oh, that's the wrong place. It's over here. Because I think it's going to be too complex to actually vote on these. And the things I'd like you to consider when evaluating the idea. So essentially what we're doing now is we're going to pick the top ideas that we're going to turn into real viable businesses. And the next step in the entrepreneurial process, so as you're going on your entrepreneurial journey, is first of all, you start learning about having an entrepreneurial mindset, and you start training yourself to be good at identifying problems in your own community, in your own daily life. And one of the things that sort of distinguish entrepreneurs from other people around the world is that they don't accept the status quo. They don't just accept the way the world is, they actually want to go and do something about it. So they take action. But the first thing you need to learn is to see these problems as problems that you want to do something about. And then the process that you're going through here in a very fast, sort of condensed way, usually takes a couple of days. We usually do this over 2 full days with Thunderbird, either in bootcamp style or over a 7-week course, where you go through the different stages that you're going through here. Defining a problem you want to solve, defining a customer segment you want to focus on. Then we go through ideation, design thinking, coming up with tons of good ideas, ultimately ranking those, picking the best one, and then building a business model around it. And then we dive into lean startup method and testing the ideas and all that good stuff. But what I'd like you to consider now is essentially picking the idea that you think has the most potential. And the way I usually do this is on this ranking matrix here. You can see if you see my screen. Where you consider expected impact on the x-axis going towards maximum impact, on the y-axis, right? And then we have innovation risk on the x-axis going towards zero risk up here. So here you have ideas that are super high impact, very low risk. These are like no-brainer ideas. Most of those high impact ideas are going to be over here. There's going to be a lot of innovation risk, meaning that it's highly uncertain whether it's going to work. Maybe on the technology side, maybe on the feasibility side, whatever it might be. Okay, great. So you have, I see lots of great thumbs up here. And initially I thought, well, let's just pick 2 of these that we want to work on and let's do that. But there are so many great ideas here that I feel it's a shame that if we only get to work on a few of those. So instead, what I am going to do is I'm going to introduce a framework here very briefly called the Startup Canvas. Some of you might be familiar with the business model canvas developed by Alexander Osterwalder and his colleagues back in the days. But essentially with this notion that it's a waste of time to write a long business plan very early in the process, because all you really have is a list of guesses. And just because you write those guesses down into a fancy plan doesn't make them any more real, won't make them any more closer linked to reality. So instead of writing a long business plan, you sketch out your business model in a single image. Initially, that framework called the business model canvas. I've created another version that I like a bit better for early stage idea called the startup canvas that you'll now have access to. So most of the businesses you see today, the industry disruptors, they are winning not just because they have a better product or service, but because they have a better business model. The way they create and capture value from their customers, the way they build relationships with their customers, the way they reach their customers through different types of channels that helps them optimize their lifetime value per customer and decrease the customer acquisition costs. All of those things are part of the business model. So the canvas model looks like this. You sort of have 7 different elements to it. The first thing you want to focus on is what is the problem you're solving and why do you care about it? It's very important, us as investors, we always want to know, why do you care? Are you choosing to devote your time on solving this particular problem? Then who are the customers and users? We distinguish between customers who are paying customers and users who are beneficiaries. Especially when we talk about social challenges, you might have different customer and user segments, right? So you're building, for example, Tom's Shoes, right? With this give one, get one type of business model, you have customers who are people who pay full price for a pair of shoes, in Chicago, for example. And then you have users who are, kids in developing countries who might not be able to afford a pair of shoes, that now get a pair of shoes for free. But you need to have a strong value proposition for both of those segments. Okay, who are the early adopters? Who are the first people you're going to go after to sort of test your model? What is your solution? The key features? Why is this more awesome than anything else out there? How are you going to reach your customers? And how are you going to get your product into the hands of the customers? What are your revenue streams? So how are you making money? How much are you charging? Try to be specific. Are you charging through cryptocurrency or credit cards or cash or PayPal or checks? Or what is it? How much are you charging? How often? Is it a subscription model or a transactional revenue model? Or how are you monetizing your products? And if you are a nonprofit idea, then you need to figure out, well, how are you going to fund this? Right? What kind of charitable donations are you going to get? And who are those funders? How much are they going to give you? What is it going to cost you to build this business? What is unique about this compared to all the alternatives? How are you going to protect this idea? And what is the social and environmental impact of setting up this business? So this is the Canvas model. And that was a very sort of rapid introduction to this. But what I'd like you to do now is is I created a couple of different boards over here. So if you have an idea that you like, that got some thumbs up, and this has a lot of potential, for example, farming equipment that run on renewable energy, tractors, etc. Oh, that's a cool idea. Well, then you can take that idea, you can either drag it or you can Control-C, Control-V, and then you can just put it over here. And then all the people who want to work on farming equipment that run on renewable energy, let's work together to create a business model now. In 5 minutes, we want to fill out these entire canvas so we have a complete business model on how we're going to create farming equipment that run on renewable energy. What is the business model for that? Who are the customers and users? What is our solution? How are we going to get these tractors and other equipment to our customers? Is it going to be a subscription model, or how are we going to monetize this? All right, so you basically take one of these, you can copy, paste it down, you just grab a canvas, and whoever are interested in that idea will follow you and help you build that model. Okay, so I suggest, what do we have over here? So here are some good ideas. Tax incentive to produce solar, wind. That's a great idea. It might be hard to productize, more of a policy type change. So it might be more fun to work on ideas that are sort of productizable. Integrating solar panels and wind turbines into solar infrastructure. Yeah, true. How can we think about a product that will work for that? Education program, training farmers to integrate solar panels. See, that's something we could actually build a business model around. But it's up to you. If you have some that you want to work on, try to take that sticky, put it down to one of the canvases, and then start building a business model for this. So any one of these that have a lot of ideas, I can also help maybe select some of these. Vertical farming in bright areas with large abandoned infrastructure. That's a cool idea. Maybe there's some people who want to work on that business model. So I'm going to put it down here and say let's build a business model for that idea, because vertical farming happens quite a lot, but it's still not commonplace. And with a better business model for that, that could be something that could be pretty huge. Integrating green walls, roofing in buildings to combat ecosystem fragmentation and urban heat islands. Wow, that's another great one. If those who want to work on that, start building the business model for this down here. Organize social table to create connections. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. But you are empowered, my friends. Grab one of these that had some traction, that got some thumbs up, put it down on a business model somewhere, and then we'll see if some people will join you. So let's see, once you start doing this, I'm gonna call out what business models have been picked, and you can just pick one of these. They're like, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 different canvases available. If there are more ideas, I'll set up more, but otherwise we're gonna try to. So here we're getting started, right? So we have a couple of folks down here who are helping out, building out the business model for farming equipment that run on renewable energy and tractors. So you don't have to have worked on this idea before. If you find it interesting, just jump in and help populate the business model for that idea. The canvases are locked, the sticky notes on it. You can just double click on those stickies and write directly on those stickies. Okay, and by the way, I know we're almost at the top of the hour. I'm happy to stick around if you are. I know it's pretty much end of the session, so you might have, probably don't have anything more important to do than to save the world here over the next 15 minutes. So we can go a little bit over time and actually see this through and build these business models. If any of you are interested in this canvas model, I am more than happy to share that. So I think I'll just set that up. Cool. Thanks, Tomasa. I'm glad you're enjoying the session. For those of you who are interested in sort of taking this to the next level, I have put together a resource page long ago with a bunch of good stuff. And I have the templates here that you're using, a couple of other templates, both in an A3 format and 11 by 17 inches. Happy to share those with you. You can actually find those pretty much at the top, called the Startup Experience templates, in the chat here. Well, yeah, Gabriella, it was a little confusing because I had initially, this was aimed for like a 1-hour workshop. And then yesterday they changed the time on me to, oh, you have 2 hours now. But in the meantime, unfortunately, I've scheduled some other important meetings here. But we can run over a little bit. And the good thing is that the Miro board, I'm not going to take that down. So this is going to stay active, and people can keep playing around up on the Miro board. And once we close this session, inside of Miro, you actually have a video chat function as well. So I'm not sure if we can do it with 30 plus people, but some people are, you can activate your video chat, and then you can actually have a conversation in there too. So anything is possible. And I'm not going to take this down. So all these ideas are going to remain here. So just remember to grab the link to this Miro board, and that will remain active in all perpetuity, or until Miro stops wanting us to share these things for free. So here again, here's the link for the Miro board. Just make sure to keep that, and then you'll be able to jump in anytime and get inspired from some of these ideas. So this is exciting. We're actually starting to see some real ideas that are popping out here. This is the farming one. I'll get back to you in a second. We have, what is the other idea here, is a solution to develop open source hardware and software to run on low-cost electronics and utilize 3D printed parts for mechanical components. That is a cool idea. What is the problem you're solving? Pump and irrigation systems for poor rural farmers are prohibitively expensive. That is true. So as we start seeing more 3D printing solutions out there, an option would definitely be to have maybe industrial scale 3D printers available for some of these communities. And what you might be able to put up is like, so we're going to put up a fairly large scale industrial 3D printer in some area. And then people can simply request a specific part. Maybe we have developers or 3D printing folks who can help model the actual device, and then you can print it out. And if there's poor infrastructure, you could even have drones that would deliver these. I'm going to add under channels, maybe have a central drone delivery, because in certain times of the year, it's really hard to, infrastructure might break down. Okay, but we need a revenue stream here. How are people going to pay for this? And what will be the cost? And we need some more estimates here. What other business models do we have? We have here on integrating green walls, roofs in buildings to combat ecosystem fragmentation and urban heat islands. Okay, and the solution here is integrating nature and fauna into the built environment. Okay, I would like maybe a bit more context on this idea. I'm sure it makes a lot of sense in your head, but let's hear a bit more about what you're thinking here, how to actually do this, what technology we're planning on using, paying, okay, the developers, users, residents, tenants. Okay, yeah, great. And what we want to have a very clear, sometimes what I do when I'm using this canvas is that I will essentially say, okay, if we have different customers and users, I will say, great, let's put those on different stickies, and then I'll make this one green and this one is blue, and then, because in my mind, I need to have a strong value proposition to the users, and I need to have a strong value proposition to the developers. So then you could essentially have, say, okay, now I'm going to describe the solution or the value proposition to my developers over here. And this is connected. So then you have the value prop and the actual product from a paying customer perspective, and then you have for the users, what do they get out of it? Well, they get out of it that they feel good about living in a more sustainable building. They feel good about the clean air, and things like that. So there's a value prop for each of the different segments. Okay, vertical farming is it bright or blight? Maybe it's bright areas with large abandoned infrastructure. Or maybe I just don't know what a blight area is. But okay, here is different types of ideas, and you're working on the revenue model. Very cool. Community members, so that I guess residential and restaurants, local retailers. Yeah, I've seen some great examples of vertical farming happening in urban areas, and it looks awesome. So that's a great idea. Cool. All right. There are so many phenomenal ideas in here. If you have any questions as well, feel free to, okay, there is a recording of this session as well, so that's going to be available. And we have a great link to Thunderbird as well, and we love to run these types of sessions. We love to run courses on entrepreneurship, social innovation, all that good stuff. So I'm glad you're enjoying it, Stephen. It's been awesome working with you. I haven't actually done it in this format. Usually I would have, group rooms where you're able to verbally communicate as well simultaneously. And today you only got to listen to me, so that's the downside of this format. But still, just amazing to see so much interaction here on the screen. I don't think I've had such a global audience on Miro before. And that's just been amazing. Cool. Okay, but we're over time. I think we had a final slide here. Let's see if I can share that. Cool. Yes. Thank you, Max. The session will remain open for later. Here, let's see here if I can share this. Yeah. Cool. So again, here's a link. It's also in the chat for Thunderbird asu.edu/Global Compact 2020. If any of you have any questions or comments, suggestions for me, you can reach me at shiel@thunderbird.asu.edu. And I would, of course, be happy to interact with any of you. If you have any questions regarding design thinking or entrepreneurship or social innovation or anything like that, you can throw them in the chat right now. I'm happy to answer a few questions. Otherwise, I will stay on Miro and follow your Excellent ideas here. Yeah, and someone needs to start an actual business out of this session here. Thank you, Kelly. That's absolutely true. Lots of great ideas on the Miro board. It's pretty incredible. So in 1 hour, you can actually come up with lots of great, real, innovative ideas. So there are no excuses. That's typically the one rule in the workshops I try to run. There are no excuses. Anyone can get started anytime. And with the amount of technology and all these incredible innovators from around the world that are happy to jump in. Cool. Thank you, Adam. All right. So I have the feeling that people are going to keep cranking on this. And again, the Miro board will remain active. So feel free to just stay on that for now. Keep working on this. You have now the link to you can find these templates. You can also of course, sign up for Miro, and you can actually copy these elements over to another Miro board. If they're locked, you cannot copy them. So you need to just right-click on it, and then you can unlock it, and then you'll be able to copy it over. But don't do that now, because it's going to mess everything up. You can start dragging the wrong elements. Okay, this is incredible. Thank you, everyone, for joining in on our session here for hacking the SDGs. There's still lots of hacking going on. You're building out these great business models. I'm going to jump in as well and keep being active on the Miro board. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to jump off the camera here. So thanks again, and use the final template. Yes, the templates can be found at startupexperience.com/resources. I think I posted that link further up here. I'll post it again. I'll post it on there. So thank you, guys. I'm glad you had a good time. Next year, we'll do lots more of this in an even larger scale. I can imagine having hundreds of people on many different Miro boards and having more time to actually go through the different steps. Cool. Yes, Abir. And you can, again, catch me here. Cool. All right, my friends, I am out of here, but thanks so much for joining in for this session. It was amazing working with you, and we'll keep working. And I'm glad you've enjoyed Unga. And yeah, keep making a difference. Keep solving big problems. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity for the entrepreneurs. So thanks again, and take care. Difference. Bye.